G'day, and are you looking to do the Broodmother on the Fjordur map? And maybe you don't want to transfer to one of the other arcs to do it, and you want to do it here? Well, I found myself in that situation, and I decided to create a video on where do you find the artifacts, and where do you find the caves, everything that you need to know about getting to the Broodmother. Alright, so the first place that we're actually looking at is what effectively looks like one of the Skyrim... I can't remember what they actually called them in Skyrim, but basically one of the Skyrim burial mounds. Yeah, I think it was a burial mound. So this place here, if we're looking at our GPS, is roughly 07.8, 39.5. So roughly that location. And you can look for this lovely artifact here. So heading inside the burial mound, or at least the cave, there's really not much going on in here. There is a well at the back, and this is where the special features come into play. And so just be careful as you come down here, as this cave has a pond or a well full of piranhas, and so if you're coming in here with a flyer like myself, if you actually land in the water, it'll dismount you and you'll end up basically having to fight all of the piranhas that are in the water. But you can come down here into this little bit of a cave. It's a lot better light in here than what the other one was. You tend to find a blue drop here, at least I have in the past always, so we'll grab that. Not terrible, but we're now at a dead end. Right, so where do we go? Well, this wall here, this rock, is destructible. And with that, we're into the next section of the cave. Now, I'm not actually going to be doing this part of the cave as I've turned enemy invisible on. We're just basically showing off how you actually would do it. This room is full of the megalosauruses. If you're ever looking to tame these, basically there's heaps of them sleeping on the floors, those lovely little circles. You'll find other cave drops in here. It's usually a yellow one in this chamber, and then down this waterfall is where we move on into the next area. Alright, and down here we're now into this lovely little watered area. There are lots of creatures in this water, sarcos and piranhas and all the rest of it. But what we'll do is we'll land this guy probably somewhere better because there are sarcos in the water. Turn you off follow. There will be runes in the water, and there is also, if we skip all the way down here, you get right down into the depths and you swim around and you will actually find red cave loot. Ascendant scuba tank. That's actually quite nice. Not that I should really use it, seeing as I'm just cheating to show this off. And there's usually 2 red drops at the bottom of the water. Other than that, you will find some runes in the water there, but I've already collected them. And then you have the artifact itself. We have the artifact of the hunter. Now, there is an alternate entrance to this cave. So we'll go up and have a look at it. So instead of going for the waterfall, you can go down the other pathway, which will have onyx, spiders, and palovia. Just as a fun thing that you need to deal with. Get to the other end of the cave. Right, Desmodus can stay there. Once again, this rock. Okay. And once we get out of the cave, we can look at our coordinates. And we are now at 03.3, 32.8. And then when we actually look at the map, we're basically right where my finger is, up in the top area of the map. Similarly, I was under my finger before and there wasn't really much point in showing that, but that is the cave. Okay, this next cave is basically a fire cave. I think it's called the Molten Cave. 21.2, 57.4 roughly on the map. This one's a bit crazy to do. You probably want to be wearing desert cloth, just because of how hot it actually gets in here. The entryway is pretty crazy, so if you're going to try and parkour this, make sure you've got climbing hooks and all the rest of that, because it is really rough to do. The Desmodus can fly regardless of what you do in any cave, so a Desmodus is great for getting over this first part, but then depending on how strong your flyer is, this next room is then full of spiders, onyx, arthropleura, and titanobolts. You will find various drops along the way. One there on the right, which is a usual drop. There's usually a red drop here on the left, and then there'll be a fork in the path. A jump over to the left, and a little crevice down here to the right. There are actually 2 artifacts in this cave. And so I haven't found a drop in this room yet, so we can pretty much skip over it. You'll tend to find there is some shells inside of these rooms. Oh, there it is over there on the left. You can see that there's a drop over there, and we have the artifact that we're actually interested in here. Jump off, grab that. It is the artifact of the clever. We'll go and have a look at the other room, albeit that is not actually the artifact we're looking for. Alright, heading down the other pathway. The ledge that I was looking for last time is up there on the left. You can get a red drop. Sometimes the drops are in slightly different locations, but this tends to be where they are. And then you have the other artifact in here. If I jump off the Desmodus, it's probably going to get attacked here, because it is not under the effects that I am. We'll grab that quickly. There we go. Oh, my flak just broke. That's just fine. I'll repair that later. So it is the artifact of the pack. So this next cave, which is actually has an entrance underwater, is roughly 69.800.4, and what you're actually looking for under the water is that purplish glow, and the cave entrance itself is just to the right. And the waters tend to be full of lots of alpha raptors and all the rest of it, as well as the Nidaria. But if you're running a Basilosaurus, you should be fine for basically getting down there, as they'll get not so much ignored, but they can they don't get affected by the Nidaria's stunning and all the rest of that kind of stuff. But this is the cave entrance. Once inside, you then have all the joys of doing the climb internally. Alright, so obviously if you don't have a Desmodus, you could use climbing picks or grappling hooks. I have actually done this with a Thylacoleo, and it allowed me to basically climb the walls. It was a little bit rough, but we did actually manage to make our way up eventually. It's quite a long climb. And this place is called Niddersheim. You basically get some green gems in here. The initial cave is full of the Pulmonus Scorpus, Titanoboas, Ariano, Arthroplura, and in this particular room, again I've got enemy invisible on, but on the roof you'll basically find the Desmodus. And there's usually about 5 or 6 spawns just as you come into this room, and so if you carelessly walk through this first door, they'll all basically notice you come down and you'll have a hell of a time. There tends to be drops in this first chamber. It's a little bit of a lovely little scenery as you come in here. Down there you can actually see there's a red drop on the little bit of a rock there. There can basically be other drops around different ledges here, but today that's where the drops are, so you'll basically find a red and a yellow drop. The next section is basically this little cave entrance here, and we're going to jump off to do this part. From here, I won't explain how to do everything exactly so that people can explore it for themselves, but basically you're about to come across traps. You can kind of see there's differences in the floor, and each one of these represents some kind of a different trap, whether it be the statues shooting you or spikes coming out of the floor. You can kind of just run through a lot of these things and you won't be hit by it. We then continue on, and it becomes a little bit of a maze, and you just got to watch out for the various traps. One of the things that we're now looking for is you will find different coloured gemstones in some ruins, and there'll be corresponding numbers that actually go with them. Once you've found all of those various things, there will usually be 3 or 4 of them. You only really need to find 3, as you can intuitively work out what the next one is. And you can see here that there's a dead person, and so this is quite obviously, if you get it wrong, it's going to be a bit of a trap. What actually happens is if you get the sequence wrong for this, a bunch of creatures will spawn and attack you on this spot. Under each face there's a button. So green was 1, yellow was 2, if you grab that, purple was 3, and then... Wow! Whoa! Fine. And obviously you're trapped in here with some spikes. I managed to just throw out my Thylacoleo when I did it last time, because if you have multiple people and you can't have someone help you do the sequence. They have to do the sequence themselves. If you have somebody jump in and try and help you with the sequence, it will treat them as if they've started the sequence by themselves, and it will, yeah, you basically do the wrong order and then a bunch of creatures spawn. So keep that in mind. Once you put the right order in, the wall will open up. Continuing on, it basically takes you to another area which is pretty much exactly the same puzzle again. Obviously in a different configuration. Alright, so here we are basically in what is probably one of the more difficult parts. If you don't have climbing hooks or grappling hooks, or a Desmodus, you won't be able to get through here. When I came through here the first time, grappling hooks were not allowed. It does appear that you can actually use your climbing hooks to basically get around the challenge, as the cave itself actually provides you with the green gems necessary to create climbing hooks, or for some reason the game still allows the Desmodus, so you can basically bypass it by flying over. But if you do land in those spikes that are in the bottom, it is instant death. It will do about 700,000 damage, and yeah, there is no surviving.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get my grapple ready.
Yeah, I know, that's pretty much what I did. So.
Can't use that here.
Oh. Oh, wow. That's a lot of damage.
Killed everything that I had on me. And I wasn't allowed to use my grapple. Alright, and finally, once you've found all of the numbers, you'll come across another pedestal, which basically you just enter in the sequence that you want, and this door here will open. And finally, once through, you'll basically have achieved the artifact. And here we basically have the artifact of the Massive. Alright, and once you've basically collected your artifacts, you're basically looking to find your way out. If I can remember where the switch is. There it is. You'll basically find, instead of going back the way that you came, there is a switch on the wall which will open up an alternate path, and this will take you pretty much back to the start, right to the entranceway, and you can bypass everything that you've actually just done, just like a Skyrim dungeon. Again, you get to the top, there'll be another button, it'll open up a side wall, and you'll be able to skip all of that. And the last thing you need, other than doing the caves for the artifacts, is you need an object from one of the world bosses. And it's over here by about 4.2, 47.3. There is a cave. It's actually a very good cave for getting honey and polymer anyway. It's a short cave. It's going to be full of dire bears. I believe it was dire bears. We've got the Achatina. There's probably Titanoboas in there, but you end up having very high level dire bears and things like that in here. Meganura. So basically redwood style cave. But down the end, you basically see in this room there is lots of honey that can be collected, and you'll get organic polymer from that. And we have the summoning portal for the world boss, summoning in Beyla. And you just need runestones for that. To get runestones, you just kill alpha creatures on the map. Beyla is actually quite a simple fight. I came in with 15 Megatherium, which had about 10k health and maybe 400 or 500 melee, and that was pretty much overkill for the fight. She will occasionally shoot poison bolts out that the spray from that can actually hit the rider, so you put along some med brews just to help heal that up occasionally if you get hit. She does summon some regular bees, which really help the Megatherium because you get the enrage buff, doing more damage and taking less damage, and yeah, there wasn't really much more to it than that. It's in the dark. But here we are, 57.7, 65.6. We look on the map, we're basically here in the bottom rightish corner. This one's a little bit harder to find because if you... it's covered by the trees here, basically. But there is a cave which allows you to get in here. And this is like the overgrown cave or something along those lines. The overgrown cave, yes it is. It's a lot brighter in here, so let's gamma down to normal. So you find scorpions and titanoboas, Ariano and things like that amongst all the other creatures that you have. But when you come in here, you will actually find a boss terminal, and this is the boss terminal for Broodmother. So we basically have a look in here, and we have a look at the artifacts that we've been looking for already, which is the artifact of the Clever Hunter Massive. We do need a Beyla relic. That one just needs your normal stuff, and that one also needs a Beyla relic. Well, that brings us to the end, and with all of that you will be able to summon the Broodmother. The creatures that I've been using, which had about 10,000 health and 500 melee, they're quite low in terms of stats for doing the boss fight. You'll be able to do the Gamma and the Beta fight quite comfortably, especially if you have a good saddle, but even with a good saddle they probably wouldn't do the Alpha fight. You probably want double that really. You probably want to be pushing 20,000 health and, you know, more along the lines of maybe 800 to 1,000 melee. But that requires a fair amount of breeding to get to something beautiful like that, and even then that may be a little bit much. I did defeat the Gamma with my creatures on about 75% health, but they were didn't have a good saddle, and I only took 15 creatures in there instead of 20, so it's doable. 20,000 health and 1,000 melee might be a little bit overkill. Anyway, that's the kind of things that I'm working with anyway. Hopefully this helps. Make sure that if you enjoyed the video, go ahead and like it, as it really helps with the algorithm. If you'd like to see more, subscribe, and let me know what you think down in the comments. Alright, thanks for watching, and catch you in the next one.